The Passenger, a story made by Kiara EBK. All characters are fictional, however the places mentioned are. Connection to anything else is purely accidental. If you are alone on a long, dark road, you should think twice before heading down it, as there could be someone watching you from the shadows. Don't believe me? Well, this story will make you. I'm a taxi driver, you see, always giving people lifts to where they need to go. After a long day, it was now 3 a.m. in the morning. And I know what you're thinking, 3 a.m. That's the devil's hour. Creepy things happen at that time. And yes, I have heard of those rumors, but I personally didn't believe them. Anyways, I was about to drive home when this strange man approached my car. He was wearing a gray hoodie that covered his face, concealing it in darkness. He was also wearing pants that looked old and torn, like he got them years ago. He looked at me, at least I think he did, for a good, long second, and eventually said, "Could I have a lift, please?" I was a bit creeped out by the way he said it, but I agreed. I mean, what could go wrong? I opened my car door and let him in. I asked him, "Well then, sir, where do you want to go at this ungodly hour?" Half joking, he replied with an area I hadn't heard of since 1986. Pripyat. I was stunned and chuckled nervously to myself. You do know that place has been abandoned since 1986, right? I said to the stranger. He didn't reply. Instead, he just chuckled to himself and then silently nodded. It was quite creepy, to be honest. I then started driving to Pripyat, but before long, I started to feel a bit scared. It felt like hours before we even left the city of Slavuti. As we were on our way, I felt like he was staring at me, even though every time I looked through my rear-view mirror, he was glancing out the window at the nearby passing buildings and cars. It was very uneasy. When we were just about to enter Pripyat, I all of a sudden felt a great pain in my chest, more pain than I have ever experienced in my entire life. However, when I looked down to see my chest, there was nothing there. Before I knew it, I had fainted from the sheer pain. Everything after that was blurry until I awoke in the nearby hospital. However, I could have sworn I heard the man whisper ever so faintly in my ear, "You should have just went home." And right as those words hit my ears, I saw the image of his face, gray and covered with scars, and eyes that looked like they were about to pop out of their sockets. And then, plastered on the lower half of his face, was an incredibly toothy grin that no human could ever make without their face being altered forever. It was a sight you could never unsee. Apparently, my car crashed into a nearby abandoned shop and I had a piece of metal in my arm. I asked if the man in the passenger's seat was okay, but the nurses' faces said otherwise. Their faces turned pale and their eyes grew wide. Eventually, one of them mustered up the courage to say something that sent shivers down my spine. "Sir, there was no one there." They then handed me a note covered in what appears to be blood. The police found in one of the seats in the car. They say they weren't able to identify whose blood that is. One side had a drawing of the man and the other side had an eerie message, "Thank you for the ride, holler." That sentence made my face go as pale as theirs. I never told him my name.